week for a little bit. Um, I wanted to document this because I have found it's a very interesting observation that I've made in regards to behavioural changes within myself since I survived what I was put through by the NHS and my ex and everything that I've just come out of, everything that is culminating to this being finalised in court and me getting justice and an apology and a lot of money. But I was making my coffee this morning and I was making a mental note of the things that I need to get the next time I go down for the shop. Now, I don't technically need anything, but because I'm running out, I'm feeling this need to want to make sure that I have replacements, and especially with bread. And I've come to the realization, and I have mentioned this, I think, briefly to my boys in the past. Since I was starved by my ex, since I was starved when I was locked up, when I was tortured, and if you look up the definition of torture, it just means systemic and controlled abuse inflicted on a person over and over and over again with the intention of causing them pain and harm. And it's calculated, it's done on purpose. So I was tortured. Any way you want to look at it, from a legal definition, cruel and unusual punishment, whatever you want to call it, I was the target of racial and systemic abuse, basically, psychological and physical abuse, simply because I'm a mighty physicist who defied the logic of the uneducated people who were judging me, or the envious people who were judging me, or the jealous people who were judging me, like my students, my ex-husband, Elon Musk, that sort of thing. They over and over and over again trying to hit me with things to break me down. Not only did I discover how strong I was and how stubborn I am, and my determination to not let anybody tell me that I'm someone that I know I'm not, I I will fight and die for my truth because I fought long and hard to stand in my truth. I'm not perfect. I was never perfect. I grew up around a lot of child abuse. I've witnessed a lot of abuse. I've witnessed my family members treating each other, and other members of the family and members of society and members of, like, just horribly treating each other in the worst, most disrespectful kind of ways. And I was abused as a child, from the age of like 4 or 5, so I've had to survive a lot. And unfortunately, it rubbed off on me in ways that I'm not proud of. I wasn't an honest child. I was a fantasist. I was very promiscuous. See, when you're a victim of sexual abuse, you either abstain from sex, you become an abuser, or you become promiscuous. And I think I got the lesser of the three evils. But what I had to decide when I fell in love with the idea of getting married and being a wife and mum, and that was, and I do need to point out that since the age of 20, I've only had sexual intercourse with two men since I was 20, and I was married to both of them. So, and I have also been abstinent now. I haven't had sexual intercourse since 2015 because I've decided to keep my body pure for true love. My third husband was in prison in New York. We never got the opportunity to consummate our marriage, which is why I'm pretty sure I can go for an annulment, because we never consummated our marriage because I was in the UK. He left me before I had a chance to get over there, left me for the pedophile and the child abuser and that. So now, he's going to be named along with everybody else. I've been fighting on the Epstein list to get this bloody school built. But yeah, so I wasn't perfect. I I had a lot of childhood trauma that I had to heal from. I had a lot of baggage that had been put on me due to the irresponsibilities of my family members raising me incorrectly. I let food become my addiction, or rather, I let food become my crutch, and I got fatter and fatter and fatter. And it is only because my baby, came to me when he was 6, nearly 7 years old. And that one conversation he had with me changed my life forever. And so I let go of food controlling me. However, it seems to have crept back in since I survived what I was put through, under the guise of needing to keep my cupboards full, and especially with bread. And when I was putting my toast in, I was thinking, okay, I've got 3 loaves in the freezer, but none in the bread bin, so I might go down and get a loaf to put in the bread bin, even though I've got 3 in the freezer. And I'm thinking, why am I like this now, especially with bread? And I think it's because when I was locked up, and obviously with my ex, bread was pretty much the only thing I was given. When they didn't have lunch and dinner for me, they would either have only a bowl of cornflakes because of my gluten allergy, or bread. So bread became like the only thing that was keeping me alive when I was locked up. And with my ex, it was, he gave me an ultimatum. He said, I've got to buy the boys food on my credit cards now. So I either have to choose between buying you your gluten-free food or feeding the boys. And I was like, no, of course you've got to feed the boys. So I lived on bread. He was like, you can have fruit and vegetables and I'll buy you bread. He said, but your meats and things like that, blah, blah, blah. It was just, looking back now, it's a load of bollocks because I can eat any meat. It's only things like nuggets, like chicken nuggets and anything crumbed or stuff like that I have a problem with because of the wheat. I'm allergic to wheat and barley and that. But he led me to believe that it was my choice to starve myself. Such was the level of his manipulation. But when I was locked up, I didn't have a choice. So now I cling on to this need of all my money goes on food. When the first thing I do when that money hits my bank is I pay my bills. That's the first thing I do, and then I get my shopping, and all my money goes on that because I can pay anywhere up to £5 for a loaf of bread because of my gluten allergies. My food allergies make my shopping bill really expensive, and I have a very strict diet. I'm on a paleo keto diet. I have a sugarless diet. So my grocery bill in there is quite expensive because if they run out of the normal bread that I buy, the gluten-free bread, I have to buy the substitutes, which can be up to £5 nearly, and you get like between 8 and 12 slices of bread. So like a couple of days, and that's it. You're done. You got to get more. So yeah, so bread has become like a precious commodity to me, and I've noticed that my need to want to keep the cupboards full comes from the psychological trauma of not knowing when I was going to get fed next. But the thing is, it's not. I'm not doing it for me. It's just in case my boys, just in case the boys, just in case the boys, needing to know that because see, my ex-husband put that in my head. Feed you, it's either you eat or the boys eat, so it's for the boys. Keep the cupboards full, just in case the boys, just in case the boys. I haven't seen my boys since June. Since June, since that whole Donald Trump thing, which is interesting because it reminds me of a dream that my youngest had while he was here. We both almost had the identical dream where I dreamt that these American people were like a lynch mob, and they were tearing these towers down. And he had a dream where he took an old man in a taxi who was so pleased with his work, he gave my son this antique gold watch. And then he was watching this woman in a big grey sweatshirt, I think he said, cooking broccoli, and people started like knocking the door down or something because they wanted to get into, like, he was convinced that they were trying to hurt him. I said, but it wouldn't be that they were wanting to hurt him, it would be that they were wanting to bring justice to a situation you were involved in. And then, of course, they turned their back on me because of Donald Trump, and I'm convinced that Donald Trump was the old man in the taxi that my son gave the ride to. And the old man being so happy he gave him an antique watch. I'm utterly convinced that he and the people banging down the door to get to him and all of that, I think, is the justice that's coming because of my truth getting out. And I am utterly 100% expecting police cars and vans and mobs and that to turn up on my ex-husband's doorstep. 100% expecting it. I know it's coming because a lot of people, especially like Sumo Digital, he told my sons that the woman that accused him of rape was put up to it by Sumo Digital. Even though Sumo Digital spent tens of thousands of pounds going to court to defend him and his honour and stuff, he told my sons that the woman that accused him of rape was put up to it by Sumo Digital because they wanted to get rid of him. That's how disgusting he is. Like, and my boys believed him. My boys believed Donald Trump when he said about what he was trying. What did he do? He tried to deny. Oh God! Look, it was so pathetic. When Donald Trump tried to deny the reasons why he was bombing Iran or something like that, like it was all over that. I lost my kids all over that, and all over the stuff that I was posting that they said was they were making excuses for their, like, Chris admitted that he sexually assaulted me to my boys. And I said to my sons, why didn't you go to the police and tell them? And their excuse was because we're children. Whereas before, you'll see my social media is full of them fighting for justice, to help me get justice, gathering evidence and stuff. But yeah, my ex-husband admitted to sexually assaulting me. What he said to the boys was he didn't realise what he was doing was wrong. He thought I was okay with it. He thought I was okay with it. And it was basically like, just get over it now. And I was like, wow. That's when I knew he'd got into them. He's very good at getting in your head, especially if with the VRs and all of that. They went from night to day. Sorry, from day to night. Like from one visit we were having planning our future, and then the next minute they were like completely different kids. But still in the back of my, because I know I'm going to get justice, so I'm not worried about it. But in the back of my head, I keep thinking, right now I've got to get chicken. Like I've got enough to survive for like the next couple of weeks, but I've got to get chicken. I've got to get milk. I need to get more butter just in case. And it all comes from the fact that I didn't know when I was going to get fed next. And it's not that I hoard food. I'm not hoarding food. It's that I'm making sure that I don't run out just in case. Because my ex-husband put it into my head that I have to choose between me having food and my boys having food. When my boys started coming round again from January to June, they don't know that they were costing me about 100 and sort of between 80 and 100 quid a week just in food just for them. not including my shopping just for them, which means that my shopping consisted of things like making homemade soup, because you can buy the tins of tomatoes for like pennies. And I was so happy when I found out I could eat baked beans again. Because like the sugar content and that. So then I started eating baked beans and that, just so my boys could have the fruit and the meat and the vegetables and the vitamins. And because when they turned up, there, oh my God, it was heartbreaking. And after a few weeks of eating my food and using my products and everything, they were like completely different kids. And because we were really sinking our teeth into this thing that we were creating with our movies and our games, and we were having a laugh, and we'd sit and talk for hours, and I was tweeting about all the things that they were trying, and we were having the best time. And then literally the next time they came, and boom, they were like completely different kids. And I haven't seen them since, all because of the man in the taxi. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced that my son's dream about the old man in the taxi, and he said he was sad because the old man died. He was sad for the man when he found out the old man died. But when he was telling me, I thought, yeah, no. I, I knew. And the thing is, I was cooking broccoli yesterday, and I just bought myself a grey sweatshirt. I'm sure he said she was wearing a big, baggy grey sweatshirt. And yeah, the people broke into the house and that. So I know what's coming. And all of that started over Donald Trump. But I find it interesting that I've noticed subtle changes in my behaviour based on everything I went through. As soon as I recognise anybody's change in behaviour now, I immediately avoid them, because with Chris, I spent like over 20 years having to walk on eggshells around him. And now, as soon as I notice a slight crack in that egg, man, I back off and I keep away, and I'm like, no. And then I just become very wary. Whereas before, I would have just forgiven and ignored it. Look, I'm way more aware of the red flags in people's behaviour now. The other thing is that I stand in my defiance and my determination. I will not back down from telling the truth. I have also recently recognised that sometimes my memory loss, my inability to remember things correctly, and that is a result of the narcissistic abuse. So I'm still learning about myself. I'm still healing myself from what I was put through. Well, see, that's the thing. I thought I was healed, and I am healed. Like, it's not affecting me. But I've noticed that there's subtle changes in my behaviour now that didn't exist before all this happened, because it technically all kicked off around 2018, 2019, when I started kicking my first students out. The one for like the child abuse that my ex left me for, she got kicked out because we discovered she was abusing her kid. And then what happened was, I got her to talk to one of my husband's friends in prison, Kevin, who was like my best friend. And she tried to get Kevin to talk to her daughter, who was like 5 at the time, while she was naked in the bath and the girl was protesting, and had to bring her mother up on the fact that she was naked in the bath and she was not going to be talking to a stranger on the phone, who, by the way, was being monitored by the prison. And I had to jump in and protect Kevin, because he was like my brother, and that's who my husband left me for. She was trying to groom her daughter to talk to men naked on the phone, and everyone rallied around my husband Martin to protect him from it. So then I didn't realise back then that this was going to all lead to me exposing Donald Trump with the whole Epstein thing, and naming names like von der Leyen, Yvette Cooper, Ed Balls, Starmer, all the people that are on the Epstein list. They're all on it. Mark Rutte, Root, whatever, Albanese, like they're all all on the Epstein list, all of them. Macron, Carney, Ardern. So this is why they all had to try and shut me up, because I was starting to uncover things. And then, of course, Rocio from the Air Force, who was a student, the one that my best friend and exes was sexually active with. I know because I got sent the photos of their erect penises, thinking that I'd be upset and jealous, but I just, it, like, exposes them. Like, this is all stuff that's going to be shown as evidence in court. And yeah, she tried to kiss my 7-year-old son, but everybody rallied to protect her. All my students, my exes, like all of them, the clients rallied to protect Martin and Courtney and Rocio. But now I know why. The FBI wouldn't investigate, the police wouldn't investigate, everything was shut down. But now I know why, because they're all friends of Epstein. They're all helping with the trafficking, they're all supplying children, they're all in on it. So everything they try to do to break me, I've noticed that the effects are like the other thing is that I now have this need to want to constantly keep my scars clean, not OCD, but see my scars around my belly button and my C-section scars where they split open from the constant vomiting and that. I always keeping them clean now, need to keep them clean, because I'm allergic to everything chemical. So I can't have antibiotics and stuff. So now, yeah, I have to keep everything clean. My underwear has to be a certain way to protect the scars and all of that, because like I've become like not overprotective, but like vigilant around, that was affected when I was locked up, that got infected and split open and everything. Which brings me to the other thing that I've noticed. I now I have an aversion to anything clinical and chemical, uh, uh, um, cleaning products and that. I've switched all my cleaning products other than what I used to clean my toilet and the floor of my shower room, which is like disinfectant and bleach. Um, Everything is like I make my own cleaning products now, because if I go anywhere near the smell of what the hospital smelled like, or that police department when they tried to set me up, when my ex lied to the police and said that I was saying stuff about him online and it turned out not even to be true. Like, even the person that did it admitted that it had nothing to do with me, but the police still came to arrest me anyway, and then tried to set me up. The PC Wright tried to make out that her life was in danger, and it was literally, what was it, 2 cops and 1 lawyer against me in the police department, and she made out like she was afraid for her life. I'll put a link in the description box. I recorded the whole thing. They tried to set me up. Even the lawyer tried to set me up. And it's only because I managed to speak to someone from the New Zealand High Commission. And he said to me, they can't do anything, get up and leave. They even wanted to contact the New Zealand government and say, like, you can't tell who to walk out. If we want to arrest her, we can arrest her, sort of thing. But the guy at the High Commission said, they can't do anything, get up and leave. And so I did, and they couldn't do anything. But then they didn't know I'd recorded the whole interaction on the phone. So they've been trying. I've been threatened with deportation. I have to prove I'm here legally just to get that money to survive. I'm guaranteed I'm working my ass off to make sure that I'm not reliant on anyone after this is over, and I will pay back everything that I had to borrow from the taxpayer in order to survive all of this. But yeah, so I've just I've noticed changes in behaviour that are probably just all rooted in, the fight for survival. It's kicked in my survival instincts. And yeah, I just little foibles and quirks that I've noticed I've picked up along the way that didn't exist before all of this happened. Like my the woman across the room from me when I was locked up used to urinate and defecate constantly, and it used to come into my room, which then triggers this need for me to want to keep like my bathroom floor and my toilet and everything completely clean. Uh, I have to clean it very carefully in a certain way because I had a issue with the guy upstairs toilet, and it all went onto the wooden floors and everything. So I've had to clean it in increments. But yeah, but all of that now, it's like things that happened to me when I was locked up triggered things that were happening to me when I was under the control of my ex-husband, the one who put the cocaine in the pizza and lied to the police and said I was suicidal, even though my sons were there and witnessed it and were never questioned, and the whole thing was recorded and put up on my YouTube channel. So yeah, but see, my ex-husband, he used to lock us up and go away for a couple of days, and come back with sexual activity on the front and back of his boxes that included fecal matter. And I used to have to own the washing machine wasn't strong enough to clean it. I used to have to scrub it with like his boxes and that with soap and that first, and like baking soda and that to try and get the stains off. And he would come home and the fecal matter would just be everywhere, all over the toilet, in the bath, and I used to have to clean it because I was like his. And bearing in mind, this was also at a time when he wouldn't let me wear pants. I had no pants to wear, so I was walking around in a t-shirt and with an underwear, nothing else from the waist down, having to clean his fecal matter and that. And now I have this need to want to constantly keep my toilet clean, like with disinfectant and bleach and all of that, because yeah. And then of course being locked up and having to deal with the woman who was constantly doing that in her room and that, yeah. So it's like I have an aversion to chemicals. I have this need to want to keep my cupboards stocked just in case. Um, like I said, even to the point where I was actually going without food, so that for the one day that I'd get the boys, they'd come on the Monday and leave on the Tuesday, cost me anywhere between 70 and 100 quid. But I didn't care. I loved every minute of it. Yeah, and I'd be going without food, just because like he put that in my head. It's either you eat or the kids, and of course my kids are like big giant strapping. They could play for the All Blacks. One of them's nearly 7 foot. One of them's like 6 foot. They're built like brick, whats, and they're teenagers and they eat constantly. So yeah, I mean, I love it. I love nothing more than I'd get so excited when they'd walk in, and my boy loved my stews. I'd have it cooking. It would be so tender, and I'd try different recipes out on them for cakes and cookies, and just to keep us busy. I was trying to keep them occupied and keep them busy, keep their heads down until we could ride out the storm and I could get justice. They couldn't understand why it was taking so long, but they didn't understand is because I was being left to fight police departments and air forces and armies in America and FBI and presidents and prime ministers and lawyers and corrupt police and judges and all of that, all on my own. Lawyers were too afraid to touch me. I got some incredible advice, but yeah, lawyers were too afraid to touch me because of who I was dealing with. I was told by one lawyer though that when it did go to court, it would be the trial of the century. She said I'd win hands down, that my evidence was going to be more than enough to win my case, but she said it would absolutely be the trial of the century, basically putting God and racism on trial. So yeah, she said I'd win, but she said that there'd be no firms in the Yorkshire area that would be big enough to take this on. And she advised I got lawyers from London, Manchester, or Birmingham, she said. So, yeah, everyone was too afraid. So it's like one of the last conversations I said to the police was, I'll let the court of public opinion be my judge. And I said, and I guarantee you it's going to bring me justice. And now the West Yorkshire Police are under investigation for fraud and money laundering anyway. So, yeah. So I wanted to just make that interesting observation. I I'm pretty sure once I'm out of here and I've got us a family home, and I'm no longer having to worry about who's controlling my money, because I'll have my money from my lawsuit and stuff like that. My need to keep the cupboards full will only be out of necessity, for the fact that having my boys there full time, they will eat me out of house and home anyway. But luckily, this time around, I actually have the money to feed them. My only dilemma at this point, I'm having dreams where I'm getting lost. Like where I go to use my phone to ring someone, I forget their number, I can't bring them up, the call isn't connecting. I'm having to ask people on the street, how do I get north? That's what I keep saying, can you show me where north is? I'm lost from north. Like, I know where north is. I came from north, but I've lost it. Like, I'm having dreams like that, where I'm in vehicles and we're just driving around the streets and I don't know where I'm going. And it's because I have nowhere to call home once I leave here. I thought I was heading to Russia. I wanted to go to Russia, but Elon Musk and Donald Trump and that were, Elon Musk put the kibosh on that, by stealing Andre's dragon, by stealing the tail of Lucian's dragon. I wasn't defended. My rights were stolen. My properties were stolen. I wasn't defended. And that book is all about my ascension process, and people who read it will know what they're going to deal with their ascension, based on how I wrote that book. And it was just taken like it meant nothing, just for a couple of minutes of showing off grok. And yeah, so I lost all faith in my friendship. I lost faith in ever thinking that, because the thing is, I put my stuff out there, like my books and my stories and that, to see if it can be trusted. And everybody's stolen from my books. Even the the one who accused my ex, that of the assault and everything, even she stole from my ideas. I got stolen from all over the place, but it's always my test. Because if you're going to, because like, none of my stuff is set in stone until it's put in the book or in the movie or in the game. I can change things anytime I want. That's fine. But my whole thing is, if you can steal from me without having any hesitation, and I'm the gatekeeper and I'm God's daughter, and I'm the one here to spread the message of how to heal yourself from traumas and dictatorships and tyranny and this, that, and the other thing. If you can steal from me without hesitation, then I'm not going to be able to trust you with the books and stories and the games and the characters and the songs and that my kids that I'm trying to save from the Epsteiners and all that, will be creating once they come into my the folds of my foundation. So I'm the test. And when you fail the test with me, you fail the test with God and your ancestors, and then you get karma, which is why now my ex-husband, Martin, Chris, Andy, everybody who got involved, every single person who got involved, are now paying for it, and they're going to pay for it. They're going to have to sell their homes, their properties, their everything. They're all going to have to pay for what they've done. Because what it all boils down to is dozens and dozens and dozens of people from high up positions with all sorts of untold money, all teamed up with my nearest and dearest to try and stop me from stopping them getting their hands on children. And it all started with the girl in the bath and me trying to protect Kevin, because he was just about to get out of prison. And he was my best friend. I loved him like a brother. My husband Martin hated it, and he made sure he put an end to that. But he betrayed both me and Kevin by then having a relationship with the groomer. So yeah, when the Latin King found that out, I assume they wouldn't be very happy with it. And then, of course, Rocio, who then tried to kiss my son. Everybody was defending the child abusers and the pedophiles and the groomers. My ex-husband was allowed. I've got the proof up on Instagram and that, because my boys were coming to me. My boys came to me for everything. Every time they had anything on their mind, any time they had something to get off their chest, they came to me. And there was this strange man who started hitting my boy up on his PlayStation. I'm a friend of your dad's. Ask your dad. And when I looked it up, there was some weird stuff going on with his Instagram and that. It's all there. My ex doesn't give a shit about who's around my boys. As long as he can get off on it and sell his sex toys, designing sex toys with money he doesn't declare. And they all protect. I even went to them and said that he's made tens of thousands of pounds over the last 20 years that he hasn't declared in tax, and it was all shut up. The government, it was all shut up, because now we know with like Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson and all of that, they're all friends, that they're all Epsteiners. Everybody that I've had to fight have all been offenders or protectors of people associated with grooming gangs and sex trafficking and paedophilia. And then I think like some of the stuff with Starmer and the NHS with me at the moment is because I connected the dots with the COVID vaccine and what they did to the Queen. Trying to cover up the deaths and everything. They're trying to roll out the whole Pegasus thing right now. But I talked about that in the last live. So yeah, interesting observations. I had to get them down, because this is all evidence that I can use against them in court. Because I'm logical, I use logic, doubt, and reason, because I have a balanced a balanced subconscious mind. I have to understand the reasons behind everything. If I do wrong, I need to know where I went wrong and how, so that I can correct what it is I did wrong. But if you try to tell me I've done wrong when I know I haven't done wrong, even after I've done my self-analysis and thought, well, does that person's claims have merit, that sort of thing, even if I find no evidence that what they're saying isn't true, I will immediately defend my position. I never used to do that before. My entire life I kept my mouth shut. So, not anymore, because I've got kids to save. And yeah, psychological torture, physical torture, that's how it's changed me. That's my observations. Interesting. But I know, like I said, once I know I have a place to call home, once I know I don't have to worry about where the next meal's going to come from, or running out of food and that, most of that will completely vanish, and then I'll have the money to turn all my cleaning products chemical free and organic anyway. It's just expensive. So yeah. I had to. I don't know if anyone else out there who's been tortured has noticed changes in their behaviour as well. But I know, like after the Holocaust, a lot of people that I knew that survived the Holocaust, I mean, I only knew like a handful, but they all had this need to want to keep food in the cupboard as well. So it must be like a psychological effect um, of the trauma of starvation and not knowing where the next meal's going to come from. So, but I always said, well, at least it stopped me from getting fat. At least it stopped me from putting my weight back on. And, I mean, I was 28 and a half stone at my heaviest, 365 pounds. So, anyway, I'm going to go and have my breakfast now. And then I'll go down the shop and get my loaf of bread for the bread bin, even though I've got 3 in the freezer. So, but it's just in case. And I want to get some chicken as well. So I shall speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.